All right, hey everybody. So if you chose to do clay and you've never done clay before, well, at least haven't done clay in the last few years, we're going to do all of the basic handheld or hand-built techniques. So the first one we're going to start with is a pinch pot. So you should have your clay by now. If you don't have your clay and you're planning on doing the clay project, you need to get in touch with me as soon as possible because we're going to need to get you your clay before too much longer so you don't get too far behind. So the biggest thing to keep in mind with your clay is that you need to keep this in the bag sealed up unless you're using it, and make sure that you only take out what you need to work with at that time. So the easiest way to cut your clay, now you guys just have a small block, it's actually bigger than this, but you can probably just break a piece off. But the easiest and cleanest way to cut clay is with a piece of string. And you can pretty much use any kind of string. This is just a piece of yarn that we had here. And it cuts right through it. So I would suggest for you, for this first part, to take your clay and cut it into 8 pieces. So if you cut it in half, so if this is your block of clay, you're going to cut it in half this way, cut it in half this way, and then you would turn it and cut it in half again this way, I think. I don't know. I lost track. All right, so anyway, you should have 8 small blocks of clay. The first thing you're going to do when you get your clay is you're going to wedge the clay. So to wedge the clay, all I'm doing is I'm smushing it in my hands, and I want to compress my clay into a tight ball. So again, I'm just compressing it in my hands, keeping my hands cupped because I want that ball of clay to stay round. Okay, so I would wedge up my clay until I've gotten all the air bubbles out of it. And then I'm going to start opening my piece. To do that, I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to press it into my clay. Okay, now I keep my hand cupped when I do this because I want my ball of clay to stay rounded. If I were to do this on a flat surface, when I push my hand into the clay, my clay gets flat, and I don't want that. So I'm going to keep my hand rounded. I'm going to push my thumb into it. So now I've opened my piece. Now as I'm working, if I start getting dry cracks on it, I can just take a little bit of water and add it to my hands. And a little bit goes a long way. You don't want to oversaturate your clay because it will end up getting muddy. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm going to pinch around the bottom until I get my clay to about 1/4 inch thickness. As I'm working, I don't want the top to open up that much. It should stay about the size that it started. And I'm just pinching around the bottom edge. And as I'm doing this, I'm turning the piece. If you notice finger divots as you're pinching, so if I was pinching around this and I'm getting finger divots like that, then I'm pinching too much at once. You want to go a little bit at a time and keep working your way around the piece. So I would continue around the bottom until I feel like it's about 1/4 inch. And then I would work my way up to the middle. And again, the hole that we started with is not getting that much bigger. So I'm still pinching around the outside of this. I'm kind of working in the center. If it starts to dry out, I can add some water to my hands. And I can continue to work. I'm just going to do this really fast so I can show you. Once I have the center piece about 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to work at the top. So now I want to open this piece up so it's kind of like a cup. Okay, and again, you can see I have all these cracks. If you take a little bit of water and smooth it, or you can even, if your hands still have some water on them, you can just smooth this out as you're working. And so when I'm done, I should have a piece that looks like a cup, is the same thickness all the way around, doesn't have a whole lot of finger divots in it. It should be pretty smooth. All of this should be smoothed out. And then what I want you to do is I want you to take your string and set your piece right on top of it. And you're going to pull that string through and cut this piece in half. So what you should have here is something that is relatively even all the way around, is about 1/4 of an inch thick all the way around. You're going to take a picture of this and send it to me. Okay, so this is step 1 of your pinch pot making. I need to see that you can make a pinch pot and it be an even thickness all the way around. Okay, once you have this, you can wedge this back into a ball and put this back in your bag so you can reuse it. Now, I want to show you a couple here that are not how we want them to be. So you can see here, I have one side's really thick, the other side's kind of thick, the bottom's a lot thinner. Okay, so I need to have that even thickness all the way around. Then I have another one here. This is a lot of the time what I get when I do this. So if we were doing this in class together, everybody would be bringing me their pinch pots and I would be cutting everybody's pinch pot in half for you. But since you're all home, I'll let you cut it in half for yourself. So a lot of the time what I get is this. The bottom is thick, or these corners, these edges are thick through here, but your walls are nice at that 1/4 inch. Okay? We need all of this to be the same thickness, because what will happen is if this is thicker than the walls, it'll dry at a different rate. These could crack. If there's still water in them when they get fired, those water molecules will expand and it will burst out of the piece. The same thing happens when you're wedging the piece. If you have air trapped inside, so let's say I had these two pieces together, obviously there's air trapped in there. If I were to cook this, that air would try to escape and it would burst out the side of the piece. Depending on the size of that air pocket, it would not only shatter your piece, but it could break pieces that are around it, and we definitely don't want that to happen. So you need to make sure that you are wedging your clay well and getting all the air out of it, that you are creating your pinch pot so that you have a nice, even thickness all the way around the piece. Okay, want the whole thing to be nice and even. And then make sure that you send me a picture of it cut in half so that I can see that you have that proper thickness. So that is all for now. Once I get those pictures from everybody, we'll start on what our actual project is for creating pinch pots. So thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions, issues, or concerns.